Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 40, which also happens to be the season finale for season 3. And we really appreciate you having joined us on the journey thus far. 40 episodes in, that's no joke. It's been much more work than we ever anticipated, especially now that we transitioned to our basically self-production setup over here. So, thank you for rocking with us. And I guess let's just get started.
Absolutely. All right. So, in the news today, we're talking about a news item that has been in the news for the last couple of years, but then it came up recently again. So I thought I'd address it. I don't think it's what you.
It's not?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
So sometime in the early 2000s, two Dutch researchers explored to bring Teff to the Netherlands. Is that your news item?
No.
Okay.
No, not at all. Okay.
So one of the men who spearheaded the project, and his name is Reyez. And under the company Health and Performance Food International, they decided to bring Teff to the Netherlands. Now, Teff is a small grain. I believe it's one of the world's smallest grain. And it happens to be one of Ethiopia's most common grains that they use. It's important to their culture, it's important to their economy, and it has multiple health benefits. And if you're like me, you like injera, you like Ethiopian food, then that is what Teff is used for. Teff is used to make injera.
What was the other one you talked about the
Incense.
other time? Incense.
That was another one. Ethiopia journey. All right. So, because of its benefits, benefits is tagged as a superfood. You can see how the vultures will try and descend on it, right? Now, around 2005, the Ethiopian Institute of Biodiversity and Conservation partnered up with this company, and the company with the promise that they would get profits, like they'll receive profits from whatever HPFI made when they planted the seed and all that. Now, HPFI then went ahead and applied for and also gained a patent for Teff.
Oh,
I know.
Can you patent?
Listen.
Okay.
That was and became a huge thing between Ethiopia and the Netherlands. So they gained a patent to sell or import the grain as they wanted, and somehow they did this without the Ethiopian partnership or the agreement that they had. So the seeds, totaling of about 1,500 kilograms, were sent to the Netherlands. They were planted, the seeds were harvested, but for some reason it didn't really catch on in the Netherlands. So this HPFI company went bankrupt, and that was that. Unfortunately, the patent was still valid. Now, there are a bit of conflicting reports on that, but then it stated that in 2012, the company rebought the patent, however you may call it, for 60,000 euros, and then transferred it into a new company under a new name, under a different name, but with sort of the same address. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, as fate would have it, this Reyez ended up suing another Dutch company because they use Teff to make baked goods. Because he has
patent on it.
Exactly,
the patent, is it a global patent or just for the Netherlands?
It's for the Netherlands and for Europe as well. So, right. And he sued this company. Unfortunately, the Dutch courts threw out the lawsuit, and then also said that the patent was actually invalid. So that was a good case for the Ethiopians. They're able to use their Teff to make products and sell without being sued.
In Europe, right.
Exactly, without being sued. Now, the problem at the time was that the patent was also valid in other European countries, so Italy, Germany, and I think the UK as well. So a German lawyer took this on and decided that he was going to see what he could do about it. And it looks like by the summer of this year, the patent would have been dissolved, would be invalid. Now, the whole thing is just really, really, really strange. A culture that has used their grain for so many years, you come in there and say, in the name of you have discovered or you have found something and you're going to patent it. It's just very, very stupid. And there's a name for this kind of thing. Activists call it biopiracy. So biopiracy is the act of marketing plants or other biological material from the global south without sharing profits with the countries of the origin. So basically, you're just coming, for me, it's just theft. You just come and steal something that you don't know about, that other people know about, but because you think it might bring you so much benefit, it's a new superfood, you quickly go patent it and then claim it's yours. And there was a whole lot of uproar over this because it doesn't make sense.
Right.
It's like somebody coming to Ghana and saying we're patenting Gary or something.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense.
Can I stop you there?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am, well, not me specifically, but my brother is like a very, very, very sort of emotionless, business-minded person, right? And he'll say that there's what's that Jay-Z song? No church in the wild, right? So he would say the thing you should do, you should have a license and patenting office of government where you identify all your valuable resources yourself and patent them yourself.
So that nobody can.
Because I remember a couple of, recently actually, people were talking about the use of kente in like other, like people using, I think they were even talking about Black Panther, and whether it was, people, because people used imagery and like fast clothing and symbolism and whatever from different African countries, and I think they were saying that they didn't pay for it, or even adding cross symbols, things like that. And I'm like, all right, well, if you want to go that route, then you have to have some sort of legal claim that says nobody is allowed to use these things without you saying. And I think we could do that, like just cover your bases, basically.
But the thing is that you wouldn't think, like you and I sitting here, we wouldn't necessarily think that, okay, we need to patent any of our grains because somebody's going to come. You're not thinking in that route. You're just thinking,
but anything that's unique,
food.
That's the thing. We don't ever identify the rarity and value of things. Baobab is sitting there. People have already started calling it a soup. All these, we need to make sure that our bases are covered. Anything that palm oil at one time became this coconut, or all these things. If we had some kind of, let's say there's some unique strain of coconuts that's Ghana specific or something, get a patent, lock that down. Lock it down.
You're right. We actually do need to pay attention.
Because that's how the world is moving. So instead of, it's one thing to debate the ethical nature of it and how it's, underhanded or whatever, but there's nothing legally barring you from doing some of these things. Therefore, you have to also protect yourself legally. And it's just like people who trademark phrases and stuff, and they're like, everybody has been saying eyebrows on fleek or whatever. It's like, okay, but then nobody took that step. And somebody took that step, right?
But in a way, it's also people trying to take advantage of situations.
Absolutely.
They're like, what, I'm just going to get this. And this could happen with NSAID, the thing that I talked about, but it could happen. People have said, I've done the research, I've seen this and this, so I'm going to do this. Right. It's terrible.
But just like someone said, nobody here, no corporation got where they were without doing something. Do you understand? Somebody got stepped on.
Absolutely,
to get there.
Absolutely.
And so if you understand that there are no friends in business, there are no real, people are not going to do the right thing, then you know that, okay, you cover your bases. And the minute they step out of line, you're like, hey, you owe me $5 million.
Yeah, you're right.
Pay up in crisp $100 bills. You understand? So.
All right. Just to add to that, there was also a term coined by a philosopher, and she coined this kind of thing as culinary colonialism. So when exported indigenous foods are rebranded to appeal to Western consumers, to keep just enough association with the unfamiliar, but to feel exotic enough, exactly, to to be appealing to others, and that's it's just colonization, another form of neo-colonization,
which appears in various forms.
Various forms. If you don't,
some that you wouldn't even think of. You're sitting here thinking somebody's gonna rebrand my food. Watch them take fufu in a minute.
And even recently, there was something on plantain chips. Plantain chips that we've all been eating. I think some company out there, I don't know in what country they did, and they got so much attention, and people were annoyed. We've been doing this plantain chips. And then somebody stepped in, just like you said, and said, well, but what have you done about it? Have you done this? Have you done that? They went to do that, so why are you complaining? So that's my story. Luckily, it's been resolved. The Netherlands and Ethiopia, I think they've been going back and forth a bit about it, but then luckily it's been resolved. So that's that. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Food for thought.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, so for my in the news, Sky trains are coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I don't remember actually if I talked about this maybe in season 1 or early in season 2 about, the government saying that they would be starting sky trains in the country. However, in November of 2019, the government formally signed a $2.3 billion concession agreement with a group called the SkyTrain Consortium, which is made up of about, I think, 3 or 4 different corporations, for the Accra Sky Train Project. So at the time, which was like, again, in November of 2019, the investors said that the first station could be ready in as little as 9 months, which turned out to be a gross exaggeration or let's just say unbridled optimism. However, in February of 2020 now, the Ghana Rail Development Authority, GRDA, announced that the feasibility studies for the project have actually been completed, suggesting that the construction phase, barring any unforeseen circumstances, could actually begin soon. Now, the proposed system would consist of 5 SkyTrain routes that originate from a main SkyTrain terminal at Kwame Nkrumah Circle. So that's like slap bam in the middle of Accra. So 4 are going to radiate outwards from the main hub, and the 5th route is going to be a circular intercity route. So it's going to go round, and the other ones are going to go out.
Okay.
Now, I've mentioned this before. The cynic in me is like, again, this government, from what I've noticed, tend to like sexy projects, right?
Yeah.
They like projects that are headline grabbing, like the blood drone thing and whatever. But the practicality of it is somewhat questionable. I want to see these feasibility studies, basically. Do we need sky trains yet? Are we able to, because again, maintenance culture in this country is absent. Is it the best idea to have sky trains? Have we finished perfecting our on the ground trains first before jumping to sky? There is that, which a future video we plan to talk about that. There's a Tema to Accra rail line, runs from Tema and I think ends at High. I'm not sure where it ends, which is why, like I said, I'm going to be investigating this further. But from what I can tell, nobody uses it. Hardly anybody uses it. So, if that's the case, and again, when we were talking about Lagos banning the Okadas, are we, looking at, if you're going to try and, how are we going to encourage people to use the SkyTrain?
Yeah.
Because again, I don't think that I haven't heard not one person saying, "Oh yes, I took the train to work today." Never heard it. And yet supposedly there's a train. They did a big deal of commissioning it, so on and so forth. How are we going to encourage people to move to alternate modes of transportation when they seem very beholden to the typical trotro, blah blah blah? 5 lines doesn't see when because the trotro routes, whatever you say about them, are pretty convenient.
Yeah, they stop everywhere.
They literally stop places where they're not even supposed to stop. So it's very convenient for people. How will we ensure that the SkyTrain is actually a viable and suitable alternative? How much are the tickets going to be? Because if you can't be price competitive with the trotro, you're going to insist that people...
it's going to be empty.
And there's, again, only 5 stations or whatever it is. It's going to be empty. It's just going to be this albatross of a project that cost $2.3 billion. So, I mean, I'm optimistic, but very skeptical at the same time. Like I said, I need to see the receipts. Show me the receipts. I need to see the feasibility study. They should publish it. Let us read, because this thing sounds, I don't know.
Sketchy.
But anyway, that's my news.
Short one. Good. So I have 2 songs for you this week. The first one is a song by Emily Sande. I think we've talked about her before.
Love her.
Yeah, the song is Sailor. I hope we haven't talked about that. I don't think
Not
we have.
Sailor. No.
Okay, right. So Emily Sande is a British singer-songwriter. She's born to a British mother and a Zambian father. Her first album came out in 2000. Her first solo came out in 2011. That was Heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And then her album came out after Our Version of Events. That was a beautiful, beautiful album.
Listen. Mm-hmm.
She's amazing.
My future wedding song is on that album.
Oh, is it? Oh, look at that. So she studied medicine at the University of Glasgow, but left with a degree in neuroscience. And Sela is off of her Long Live the Angels album, and is a track that talks about faith, regardless of whether you're a religious person or not. It's just generally talking about faith. And it's a slow song. It makes you think. I don't know, anytime I listen, you just want to mellow and sit and think about your life, sort of, It's a beautiful, beautiful track. And because we've talked about Emily Sande before, I'm not just going to go in further. Check out Sela by Emily Sande. The second song that I have for you is a song called Indulge, and it's by Jones. Jones is a British-based alternative pop singer. Her full name is Cherry Jones. And she grew up listening to Stevie Wonder. And apparently her name, Cherie, is from Stevie Wonder's My Cherie Amour. That's where she got her first name from. Grew up listening to Otis Redding and Al Green as well. And she said her songs are very autobiographical. So when you're listening to her, it's something that she actually experienced. And I like that. It makes the song a bit more authentic.
Yeah, you can hear the emotion.
Exactly.
Feel the emotion.
Yes. And she started songwriting by by putting in diary entries. So I guess from that she made some music. Indulge is off of the album New Skin from 2016, and I like it because it's kind of different, and I like different. I listened to the album yesterday. I really liked it. It's not something that I would usually listen to, but yeah, I quite liked it. It was different. I'm like, oh, this is a good song.
Okay.
So yeah, those are my two songs, pretty short. Emily Sande, Sela, and Jones with Indulge.
Wonderful. Okay, so I have, look at me having to check here. I think I have, yes, I have 3 songs this week. The first one is by a singer called Jessie Reyez, and it features Black, aka 6 Lack. We've gone over this before, and it's called Imported. Now, Jessie Reyez is a 28-year-old singer and songwriter from Canada. She was born in Toronto to Colombian parents. And in 2014, she got accepted into the Remix Project, which is by the Academy of Recording Arts, so in Canada. So it's like an incubator/mentorship program. And whilst there, she was mentored by Daniel Daly. Now, Daniel Daly is a lead singer of the group Division. I've talked about Division here before. They're a Canadian R&B duo. They make some of the sexiest, smoothest music you're going to hear. I featured one of their songs, I think this is way back in season 1. Amazing. So she was mentored by Daniel Daly at the time. She's released 2 EPs to date, and her first album is not out yet, but is scheduled for March of this year. And this song, Imported, is off her second EP called Being Human in Public. And it did very well. It got nominated for a Grammy for Best Urban Award. It got nominated and won a Juno Award, which is like the Canadian Grammys. And I think that one, it won like Album of the Year or something like that. So it did very well. It's a really great body of work. And Imported is on there. And I just love that song. It makes me so happy. It's like a smooth, it's just like a vibely R&B song. And it talks about like not lingering on past love, right? So they're singing to each other, and she is saying, he said, get over him by getting under me. So I'm like, oh, okay. So, yeah, it's kind of lit, and I love it, and you should check it out. Okay. So the second song I have is from a group we have worn the hell out on this show.
Who is it?
Sauti Soul.
Oh, Lord.
So Sauti Soul is a Kenyan quartet. There are 4 singers. They started out as an a cappella group whilst in college, which is like high school there. And they've been making wonderful music for years. We love them on this show here. And they have a new song out, and it's called Susanna. So Sauti Soul have 4 albums out to date. The last one was called African Sauce, came out in 2019. And I think they're probably gearing up this because this is not on that album. This is just a standalone single. But as usual, Wonderful. And this one has, that East African sukus guitar riff, which just immediately, I've never heard one East African song that I haven't been like, ooh. And yeah, beautiful melodies, harmonies, gorgeous, just an all-around beautiful song. Susanna Sauti song. Okay, and so the last song I have for this episode and this season is by Demarco, and it's called True Friend. So Demarco's real name is Colin DeMar Edwards, and he's a dancehall and reggae artist from Portmore, Jamaica. He's been in the game for many, many years, probably has name recognition. You probably know who that is. He's been popular enough to apparently have done a show in Ghana. I guess I wasn't here then because I'd have probably gone. He has a huge catalog of singles. According to Wikipedia, though, he doesn't have an album, which seems weird. Or maybe he's just one of those people that just does. But Jamaican artists seem to do that a lot. It's just songs.
Get on the rhythm
and Charlie. So rhythm after rhythm after rhythm, then songs here and there. So Demarco, so True Friend came out in 2019, and it was one of those songs that, like I said once, dancehall songs are either bedroom stuff or I tell brutality, roots stuff like, consciousness, or gunting, or, this type, which is like uplifting and whatever. And it's basically talking about the people that have held you down and, bust a shot for your true friends. And so, yeah, it just got me thinking that, going through the period I've been going through, like my true friends, Eddie's wine, have really, 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 really held me down, and I'm so appreciative. I'm going to be abusing them this coming week. They have no idea what's coming.
Oh, we know.
We'll all share this burden.
We're here for you. We're here for you. We love you.
So yeah, that just inspired me to make this my song, and you guys out there are true friends too for listening and supporting us. So that's my third song. So just to go over, Imported by Jessie Reyez featuring Six Black, Susanna by Sauti Soul, and True Friend by Demarco. All right.
So in my What the F today, in southern India, specifically Kerala, residents of a building were shocked to find out that not water was flowing from their taps, but something else. They said it was a smelly liquid that was coming out of their taps. Turns out that the liquid was a mixture of beer, brandy, and rum. It turns out that some 6,000 liters of alcohol had been confiscated and been buried, and then it leaked into the well that supplies them with water. So after the complaints, the pumps have been cleaned, and the authorities are looking at ways to rectify the situation. Interestingly, they say the state of Kerala is said to have the highest consumption of alcohol in India. So yeah, you got that. But for me, it just led me to ask the question: how safe is our water? I've seen some information by word of mouth and on websites that our water is actually not that safe. So I tried to do a little digging. And in 2019, I believe, the Minister of Sanitation and Water, the Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources revealed that there is widespread contamination of drinking water, with 48% contaminated at the source and 76% at the point of use. Which is quite worrying. It is. It means the water that we're drinking. Like my mom, for example, she doesn't drink tap water.
We boil our water before we drink it, but mostly we drink bottled. But obviously, if it's tea or whatever, we boil it before we drink it. Because my mom is also not playing them games either.
So that's really just a short one. It just makes you think how easy it is for impurities to get into your water.
And I do also recall them talking about galamsey mining has affected water supply because they put chemicals and silt into the rivers, which are the same rivers that we're going to pump our drinking water out of. And of course we can also, I was thinking about that city. Oh God, what's the city in Detroit that the water is? Flint, Michigan. Sorry, not even Detroit, Michigan. Flint, Michigan, how the pipes are leaded and everything. And I wonder, what are our pipes made of?
Honestly.
Because when were these things installed? In 1952? Like what? What's going on with our pipes?
Honest, it's like we're sitting here and we're not thinking. But if you really think about it, it's scary.
If you have even seen, and I have seen, water line repairs done.
All
You
the
see
soldiers
some
goes in.
shirtless guy dripping with sweat standing inside the pipe in his flip-flops and whatever. And I'm like, this is going on someone's house.
Yeah. And then you open the tap and they are brown, and as soon as they become a bit clear, then you start drinking.
Yes.
But meanwhile, you don't know what's in the water. It's to be honest, for me it was a cause for concern, to be honest. Like, what are we drinking? What are we drinking? So that's my what the F.
Anyway.
I mean, it's something to think about.
Definitely.
Impurities and things.
Someone should test it for us. All you people doing science at Tech and Legon or whatever, can you guys get some tests and let us know?
Listen, I might even go get a kit and test it myself.
Yeah,
I'm sure those things exist. So that's that for me.
All right, so in my What the F this week, which is apparently missing from my notes. Wow. I've had a rough week, guys. Well, I'm going to wing it.
Yeah, no worries.
So my What the F, I'll just say, so my What the F this week, I was trying to find something lighthearted, and I found a story about a doctor in Tennessee who had declared a patient she borrowed $300,000 from mentally ill after the lady said, "Where's my money?" I said, scammers come in all shapes, sizes, genders, and age groups.
Insane.
Yes. So apparently, mind you, these two were supposed to have been friends for about 25 years. So this patient loaned this doctor, her name was Sue Ellen Lee, $300,000. And when she asked for the money back, she declared her declared that she had dementia. Therefore, she didn't know what she was talking about. Therefore, what $300,000, right?
God.
So how this thing even came to light is that she wrote a letter to the patient's daughter saying that your mom has dementia. So, we're going to need to start taking steps or whatever. So the daughter was like, no, she doesn't. So I believe they went and got a second opinion from a different doctor, and he was like, he found no signs of dementia or any kind of mental illness, reduced capacity, mental capacity, nothing.
Wow.
So it ended up at the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners, and Dr. Lee was brought before the board, and so on and so forth. And it turned out that, the patient was saying, it's because I asked her to pay me back my money. Now she decided to tell people I'm crazy. And so at the board hearing, Dr. Lee did admit that she didn't do any type of tests or anything to determine. She just decided just by looking at her face that, she has dementia. So in the end, now this doctor is old. She's like 70-something years old. So instead of revoking her medical license, they allowed her to retire and made her pay a fine. So she's had to retire her license voluntarily and paid a fine, but claims that she's been set up and she still stands by her diagnosis. Like, if you don't go and sit down, if you don't go and sit down at your big age, you're a doctor scamming. How can you do that? So I laughed so hard, but I was like, that's
rude.
Rude and a little worrying. Like because if the daughter hadn't, because assuming this other lady, so if she's her friend, I'm assuming she's older too. Assuming she had no one to step in and be like,
somewhere, give her medication,
she could have gotten away with it. She could have gotten away with it, So anyways, that's fine. Yeah, that's my what the F this week. Thank goodness I remembered what it was. So okay, so
right, straight to Pesewas. Today my two persons is a bit different. We always come here and talk about opinions and things. So I'm just gonna give you a few random things about me and
I love it. You don't told me I'd have done some.
I'm sure you can wing it.
I prepare some holes and over here.
So just a light sort of a light thing. Right. The first one is that a couple of years ago, Peaches and I recorded a song. Now, as you know, we both love music, and we decided to go to my brother's studio and track. We see we're doing the track. And I'm just hoping that track never sees the light of day.
A whole EP was coming out, y'all. We were about to be the hottest duo.
And then we realized that, maybe we need to do some
practice some more.
Exactly, before we do that. So watch out, we might still come out.
We've actually been saying that we'd surprise you guys with a random Peaches and Eddie production during Songs of the Week, and we haven't gotten our lives together.
Yeah,
but
so
it will
next
happen.
Season, it will happen.
Next season, right.
So when I was younger, my sister and I gave my brother a fly to eat and told him it was a raisin.
Oh my God, you guys are criminals.
We're evil. Sorry, bro.
Did he eat
it? He ate it because he loved food so much when he was a kid. So he took it and popped it in his mouth. I know, it's really, really
Does
horrible.
he know it's a fly?
Yeah, no, he didn't know. I mean, when
did you tell him?
Oh, later.
Years later.
I think years later, yeah. We caught it at the window and then we gave it to him. It's raisin.
Oh,
eat it.
My goodness.
Right. The next one is when I was about 7. I was 7. I could ride a bicycle. I decided that I was big enough to take my bicycle and ride around the area. And this was in Germany. This wasn't in Ghana. My parents were worried. So eventually my dad had to take his car and come looking for me. Like, I thought I was so big. Independent girl riding my bicycle. Another random fact is an ex-boyfriend of mine told me that, do you want to die and go to hell just because I didn't respond to his messages?
Wow, okay. So an emotional abuser right there.
So another random fact is that I love languages. I really, really, really do. I've taken courses in Mandarin. I've tried to learn a few words of Yoruba. And I recently started learning Arabic. I love it. It's great on Duolingo. So I speak Ewe and German fluently. My tree has gotten much better, so that's good. Mm-hmm. My Ada is so, and I speak some French as well. What else is there? I can usually tell when people are lying to me. I don't know, but I can just tell. There's something in a person's demeanor. There's something in their eyes that just shows, this one, you're lying. Another fact about me is that I'm a very private person. I love my own company, maybe a bit too much, but I'm a private person. I don't like matter. And when I was much younger, I used to be incredibly shy. I'm still a bit shy, but it's gotten much better. And because I had to make a conscious effort to sort of get out of it, because it wasn't helping me, to be honest. I had to be like, you know what, this shy thing's not going to take you anywhere. So you need to, Another random fact, or maybe not so random anymore, I love food. I really, really, really love food. But at the same time, I'm really picky as well, and I get bored with food quickly. So I guess it's a good thing that I like cooking and experimenting. And I really, really love cooking as well. Until you tell me that it's a job as a woman to cook for you, then I lose all my cooking skills. Please don't tell me to do that. And if I go somewhere and the food is not tasty, I won't eat it. Like, I know there are some people who are like, it's polite to just eat. I'll be like, no, I can't have it. I probably won't tell you the reason. But I was like, nah, it's okay. I can't eat it. When we decided to do this YouTube thing, I was super, super, super nervous.
I was going to say that it took a lot to convince her. It's not like I'm more like a behind the scenes person myself. I don't like people really seeing me out there like that. But I was much readier than Eddie was. It took some doing. It wasn't actually until we went on a TV show once. Yes. And it went rather well.
And I had fun there. I was like, this is great.
We can do this.
And I started getting addicted to this kind of thing. A few years back, I didn't know how to swim. I took a 3-day course.
I did not know you didn't know how to swim.
No, I mean back then. Before,
okay.
So I took a 3-day course on swimming, and I can swim now. I'm not sure I can swim like really, really well in the sea and things. Yeah, but I can move from A to B. And last but not least, I'm a lover, not a fighter. I love peace and all the happy things. But unfortunately, the world is not always like that. So sometimes you got to bare your teeth. Be like. So yeah, that's it for me. Just a few random facts. If you want to know more, send me a message, tweet at me. I'll be happy to let you know more.
Now I'm just like embarrassed by my topic here.
But why?
Excuse me.
No,
I'm going to copy. Next season, I'm going to do my random facts. Excuse me.
Then I'll come to some serious topic and be like, today we're talking about blah. Yeah, so that's
heart disease or
something so heavy like hypertension or I don't know what. So that's me.
Okay. Oh, that's so lovely. Okay. Well, so I was thinking about what two pesos I want to close the season on and everything. And I figured because we are now in 2020, I'm going to briefly talk about something that I remember from many, 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 many years back. And if you're a Ghanaian of a certain age, you'd have heard this. And that is Vision 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Okay. So now, listen, that document was 100 pages long. And like I said, I do all my notes at 3 a.m. to the point where I left some somewhere. So it's a very cursory, it's not one of my economics deep research, but there's some things to take away here which I thought were interesting and useful to know. So for anyone who isn't aware, Vision 2020 was the long-term development agenda for Ghana, which came into being in our post-democratic 1992 government. So that was the first time we ever actually had elected government officials after having been subjected to military rule for almost since what 1960. So it was a moment of transition politically and all of that. And one of the things that they presented to Parliament was this long-term agenda for growth and development, which was to go all the way to 2020. Now, at the time they introduced it, back then in 1993 or whatever it is, 2020 seemed
so far
away. I was walking around in my primary school uniform at SOS, or where was I? Where I got into? But I was still quite young. So, and now we're in 2020. So I was very curious to see what the targets were in the Vision 2020 document and where we are in terms of having attained them today. So I said, let me have a look and do some comparisons.
Oh, great. I love this already.
So the ultimate goal of Vision 2020 was for Ghana to be a middle income country by 2020, and this is a direct quote, for citizens to live long, healthy, and productive lives as the norm, with access to employment, shelter, and leisure.
It's a lie.
So,
it's a lie.
So of course, there were typical economic indicators that they were targeting: education, health, rural development, ICT infrastructure, road networks, economic growth, diversifying the economy, and so on and so forth. So at the time, in 1995, which is when it finally made its way onto the Parliament floor, the adult literacy rate in Ghana was 53%, and 77% of children were enrolled in primary school. Now, as of 2018, that number is now 79%, and primary school enrollment is at 84%. So there have been marked improvements in those things. So good going.
Good. Yeah, definitely.
The GDP at the time in 1992 was $6.4 billion. Today, it's $47 billion. So the economy has indeed grown exponentially since that time, as it should have. The midterm goal for Vision 2020, so that they had a midterm goal that was from 1996 to year 2000, was to take the per capita GDP from $441. Now, per capita GDP, basically the GDP is the amount of money that a country generates, right? And then of course you subtract, so you've got imports, export. There's a formula which I'm supposed to know, but I don't because school was a long time ago, right? Now, per capita GDP is when you take the population of the country and use it as a divider for the total amount of gross product, and then you get the per capita GDP. Okay, so at the time it was $441. This is back in 1992. And the midterm goal was to take it to over 500 by the year 2000. But today, the GDP per capita in Ghana is 2,130. So again, we have grown so much as a country, right? At the time, the goal was to have agriculture then over 40% of GDP. So again, that's not a good thing per se, because if you have bad weather or bad crops or some kind of pest or whatever that destroys your crops, then the whole economy is in shambles. So you always want to diversify your GDP income sources. So they wanted to have GDP from agriculture be less than 20% of the economy, to have the service industry account for over 45% of the economy, and to have industry be over 37%. So right now, agriculture is at 18% of the economy, so less than the 20% target that they had. Now, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing because we've talked about how much food we import.
Yes.
So, in terms of diversifying the economy, yes, but in terms of like we've over diversified. I don't know. That's a whole separate conversation to have because specialization is technically according to your. I don't want to get too into all this, but according to your dominant economic theory, specialization is actually good. So one country does what they're good at, the other country grows what they're good at, and then this one will export to this and that will export to that. So technically speaking, it's not necessary to grow every single product that you're going to eat. However, our balance of import-export is skewed heavily, and agricultural goods are one of the ways we could restore that balance. So, debate. Go and talk to the finance minister, media. I'm just saying, but so again, they wanted the services industry to be over 45% of the economy. Right now, it's at 43, so we're right there. And they wanted industry to account for at least there's 37% of GDP, and we're at 31 now. So we're actually pretty close to our 2020 Vision 2020 goals. We've got this whole one district, one factory thing going on. I hope it's real and not, again, just sexy headline grabbers, because that would boost our GDP industry figures quite a bit. So now the economic growth targets at the time were for over 8% economic growth. So that's basically how much the economy is growing, how much more money is being generated each year. And you usually want to have your growth rate to be at least 6%, otherwise you're in stagnation, right? Currently it's at 5.6%. That's why you're feeling stressed out. Because things are really hard. But
you're a mess.
As recently as 2018, the growth rate was at 11%. So it shrunk dramatically since then. We're hoping it will go up. Standard & Poor just gave us this good rating or adjusted our rating up. I can't remember what, but I don't know. It seems supposedly growth indicators are looking good. We'll see about that. All right. Now, this is the one that really stood out to me. At the time, 71% of the energy in the country was provided by wood fuel. I'm like, ew, how ghetto. Really? Some Accra lifestyle, man. 71%, which was really crazy. Now, the three main energy sources are, of course, oil, hydroelectric, biogas, and then biomass, which is basically wood fuel. Right now, wood fuel still accounts for 40% of the energy. And who are all these people using charcoal? I guess in the rural area. See, I always think we're more urbanized than we really are, As they say, the whole Ghana is not just Accra and Kumasi and Tema.
Exactly. So
people are living very differently out there. Like 40, that's almost half the country still rely on mostly wood fuel, charcoal, and things like that. Of course, oil counts for 42%, so that's what's pumping all the turbines or like fueling all the turbines, and natural gas is 11%. Hydro, I don't know where it is. All right, whatever. But of course, the hydro is still quite small because we only have the Akosombo Dam, and then is it Bui Dam or what's the other one? There's some other one somewhere getting to the north. So we have a ways to go. We already know that electricity supply is not enough for us here as we've grown as a nation, so there's work to be done there. Now, the life expectancy at the time, that's again 1992 to 1995, that time frame was 55 years of age. It's currently 63. We are still well under the global average, which is 70 something, yeah. And it's going up, and so we have catching up to do. The goal was also to reduce population growth to under 2%, because obviously if your population grows more than your economy or grows to a degree that you cannot manage it, then that creates problems. Currently, population growth is at 2.2, so not bad, not bad. If we can get our economic growth numbers up, we might actually be doing something out here. And then again, poverty level at the time was 36%. Currently, the poverty rate is 23%, so it's gone down. However, it's stagnating and has only gone down by 1% in the last couple of years, which indicates that the divisions between the rich and poor keep growing. So even though the baseline of poverty keeps moving up, some people are still left behind because the rich are getting richer, so the gap is still wider. But why did I say all this? Just to say that even though, again, if you live around these parts, you know, things suck a lot of the time. And like I've said many times before, the longer you live here, the more you realize the space between where we should be and where we are. And, you know, Ghana could be a paradise. I strongly believe that. That's why I'm always so frustrated. This is also, I believe, an election year, is it not?
It is, yes.
So these are things taken into consideration. But I guess the positive takeaway here is that even though we have so far yet to go, we have come such a long way as Ghanaians. Yeah. Ghana has become quite the sexy place to be. Everyone is coming here, year return, this and that. Things have changed dramatically, and I guess that's a positive note to carry, considering, you know, where things used to be going forward for the rest of the year, for the election year, just to reflect on that things are getting better.
Yeah, that's a great way to end the season. Nice. Okay, so we just want to thank a few people.
Yes. Perry Namai, go check him out on socials. He did our opening visual graphic for us on the YouTube channel, which please, all of you, go subscribe. We're actually almost at 100 subscribers, so that's really nice. Thank you guys. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends. So shout outs to Perry. Shout outs to Seshi, sound engineer extraordinaire. We took tips and pointers when we started doing our own thing over here, which incidentally is why the audio has been all over the place. Because we are doing our own editing now,
but it's getting better.
But I think we finally hit the sweet spot as well. So going forward, everything should sound really professional.
Yes.
Shout outs to my brother Andre, who finesses our logo every season. If you notice, our accessories change every season.
Flowers and cute
sunglasses and whatever. Next season will be something else. So shout outs to him. And then I guess
the listeners.
Yes, absolutely. You guys are
amazing.
As I've said, I think I've said here before, this podcast has far exceeded the modest expectations we ever set for it.
Honestly.
By far. Like, I can't even begin to tell you. I never expected to have listeners in Namibia, in the UK, Israel, so many people Russia, in Ghana hold us down. All over the world. And it's you guys that did it. It certainly wasn't me. So thank you so much, and for your wonderful comments online and
your messages and
all that. You guys are just so awesome, and we really appreciate it. We recognize every single one of you. We see the wonderful work you're doing PR, free PR and stuff like that. Please keep doing it. We love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you soon. I don't know, soon.
You know how we are.
But no, I mean, this time we won't vanish for a whole calendar year or whatever.
We'll be back soon.
All right, loves.
All right,
Take care.
Bye.